Welcome to The Functional Esthetician, a podcast where skin health meets whole body wellness. I'm Samantha Dunch, a licensed esthetician, owner of Skin Deep Aesthetics, author, and a doctor of functional medicine. My mission is to help you see the bigger picture because healthy skin starts from within. In each episode, we'll explore the gut-skin axis, hormones, nutrition, skincare, and wellness tools you can use to transform your skin. Welcome to the Functional Esthetician Podcast. I'm your host, Samantha Dunch. Today's special guest is Dr. Natalya Borakowski, a naturopathic physician. We are covering the skin, the science behind what women believe about themselves when they look in the mirror, perimenopause, and cortisol. Before we get to today's interview, let me introduce Dr. Natalya. Dr. Natalya Borakowski is a licensed naturopathic physician specializing in women's health and aesthetic medicine with nearly 2 decades of experience in cosmetic dermatology. She is the founder of Desert Bloom Skincare and the creator of Unveil You, a platform dedicated to helping women restore clarity, self-trust, and autonomy in how they see themselves. Her work introduces the concept of mirror anxiety, a state where self-perception becomes unstable and emotionally charged, and explores how biology, stress, and cultural pressure shape what women see in the mirror. Through her emotional aesthetics framework, Dr. Natalya bridges science and psychology to help women make grounded, self-directed choices about their appearance without fear or external influence. Hi, Natalya. Welcome to the Functional Esthetician Podcast.
Hello, Samantha. So happy to be here.
I'm excited for our conversation today. Tell me a little bit about your background. Introduce yourself, share how you got started and how you got to where you are today.
My initial background actually starts behind the makeup counter. I started in my early 20s working for Chanel, just total serendipity how I ended up there. And back then I wasn't really necessarily seeing myself as a makeup artist, didn't really know anything how to put a lipstick or a mascara, and especially in somebody else's faces. And neither can I ever call myself artistic. I mean, I grew up playing music, but I never was really good at drawing. And essentially just fell in love with seeing that spark in a woman's eyes when you give her a mirror and then suddenly she just loves her reflection. So I've been chasing that feeling, that satisfaction, the connection with a woman since. And slowly kind of grew tired, I guess, covering bad skin. And I remember talking to my boyfriend back then, who is now my husband of 20 years. But back then I was talking to him and I said, I don't know what those American girls doing wrong. Like, why they all have so much acne? Because I never had acne when I was growing up. Maybe a couple zits really, but never really seen this bad inflammatory acne as I saw it in this country. And he said, well, there's probably some kind of like licensing or something you need to go through. So I looked it up. I told him, hey, I have to go to this aesthetic school. So I think I really want to do this. I need to find cure for acne. So now, fast forward many, many years, I still don't have cure for acne. And I know you're laughing because you're as well, been chasing that cure for acne.
Yep.
And you know how difficult acne really is because it's individual for everybody. But working as an esthetician, I came to realization all we just treat acne superficially. So we can control the existing lesions, but we cannot prevent the new ones from popping in. So I figured if I'm smart enough, I can go through medical school, I can be a dermatologist, then maybe I can actually find that cure for acne. So I did my pre-med studies, and I remember I was shadowing this old dermatologist and just watching them to really prescribe more topical drugs and not necessarily finding the cure, still chasing the symptoms. It really got me very disappointed, and I really was lost for a moment because I really didn't know what I would do, because now my whole idea of being a dermatologist was falling into pieces. So I don't remember exactly what I Googled, but somehow I came across a naturopathic medical school here in Tempe. And back then I had infants. My son was just born. So I really didn't have a privilege of being in school in different states. So the fact that it was only 25 minutes from my home was extremely convenient. So I went there and I talked to admissions, and they were super excited to have me. So they not necessarily were teaching dermatology, but that was that holistic approach to body, to really seeing body as a whole entity instead of collection of organs. Realizing there's a different way we can treat the skin, it was aha moment, and I never looked back. So I became a naturopathic physician, and as I mentioned, still don't have cure for acne. But now the biggest conversation is talking to women of my age and just watching them grow old, dealing with aging in both psychological and biological way, and just helping women to stay healthy and radiant. That's still been the same mission that I've been chasing since my early 20s.
I love that. And I love what you said. There's no cure for acne, but yet in a way we are able to help with acne because we are both looking at the root cause of it.
Right, absolutely. There is no, we'll say, cure, but you can put this in a permanent remission if you are dealing with inflammation and you're looking at acne. Like the way I really see it, I see it more so as an autoimmune disease, because somehow immune system becomes extremely sensitized to a bacteria that normally lives on everybody's skin, and only in acne prone skin that bacteria becomes a nemesis. And if we just destroy bacteria, that's kind of stupid, because its normal home is your face, so it will always come back to its home. And then we already talked about how terrible antibiotics can be, both topically or internally, because it destroys your microbiome, and the microbiome is definitely essential for health.
And I don't think people realize that when you're saying microbiome, we think about the gut, but the skin has its own microbiome too.
Very true, very true. And then there's a very big conversation about microbiome and skincare. I know when this whole idea of probiotic skincare became popular, and I want to say probably about maybe 10, 15 years ago, I was super excited because I was the same way. Skin, gut axis, this is wonderful. Let's establish healthy microbiome. It's going to be cure for acne. And then you look into what in those products, and at the best, it will have things like lactic acid, which you can argue it has a lactobacillus bacteria in it, but it doesn't live on the skin. Like
Right.
It belongs in, your vagina or into your small intestine, but it doesn't live in the skin. And then bacteria that's actually commensal and lives in our skin is very difficult to put in a jar. Really, all the skincare that claim to be actual probiotic, they're not probiotic. They're more so microbiome supportive environment. But obviously, the worst thing you can do is to constantly strip the skin and kill your own commensal bacteria.
And that's the other thing. We constantly wash our face. So we're overdoing it. We're killing that bacteria. Even our hands, when we wash our hands too much, put hand sanitizer on, and that destroys the microbiome too.
You are absolutely right. And then goes beyond that. It starts destroying that lipid bilayer, right?
Right.
So when the skin becomes compromised, especially if we're talking about mature skin 40 plus, so we are already becoming more dehydrated. And it's such a common problem we'll see too. We have those women come in and say, my skin is oily. And I'm looking at her skin, it's extremely dehydrated. So you can see the lines, it looks dull, but it feels oily. Why? Because our skin does not have water glands. It's dehydrated, it creates more oil. So she feels greasy, but she's dehydrated. So ultimately, the answer is not stripping your skin. It's not constantly washing it, using all those harsh ingredients, salicylic acid, benzoyl peroxide. It really fires back in our 40s because it destroys that lipid bilayer, dehydrates the skin, and can worsen the acne or get other problems happening like dermatitis, rosacea, eczema. That all can start happening too because we are continuously stripping and dehydrating.
I swear we could do a whole episode on this alone.
Yes, I know. Very, very true. Yes, yes.
Yeah. I want to talk about self-esteem and the way women look at their reflection. What do you think is driving that discomfort? It's a confidence issue, but is it something deeper happening in that perception?
It's definitely more than just confidence. It's a really, really common scenario I see in my practice. What I develop with my patients when they come in for a consultation, I do what we call it mirror exercise. I always give her a mirror and I'm watching her face, and more so watching her interaction with her reflection. And we all been guilty of it. I'm not trying to shame somebody because trust me, I've had bad days when in the morning you look yourself in the mirror and you're like, oh my God, I look horrible. But we tend to really pick out imperfections, and we tend to be the most self-critical, especially in our 40s. And why that happens? Because as we start going through perimenopause, through hormonal withdrawal, the very peculiar thing happened to our brain. Our brain, what I call it, starts to go through software upgrade. And without the hormonal support, specifically without progesterone, which is sort of the calming hormone because it supports secretion of GABA, it's a calming neurotransmitter in our brain, we become a little bit more irritable. We become a little bit more sensitized to everything around us. And guess what? Any slight imperfection in your face becomes a threat. So if your brain does not recognize your common perception of your face, which is a really interesting phenomenon because our adult identity crystallizes in our head in our mid to late 20s. So what we envision ourselves to be, it's that image of a younger girl. And if at some point you got a really bad picture of yourself, or you saw yourself on a very unflattering angle in the Zoom, and all of a sudden you became aware that you have aged, it's really very common thing that happens to many of us, and we suddenly feel like somebody just pushed that time forward button, and all of a sudden, oh my gosh, I aged overnight. And this moment of panic makes you zoom in into this imperfection, and you become so much more self-critical. It's not vanity. It's not you being fake. You're not trying to chase youth. It's that perception identity split, and it's very psychologically difficult to live in our common environment now because we are first generation of women that's surrounded by a million mirrors. So everybody with a phone has camera. And at that moment, anybody can randomly take a picture of you. We constantly on cameras through, Zoom meetings. Right now we're recording podcasts, and our brain has no choice but to analyze that image. So if we don't become aware as a first generation of women experiencing this phenomena, if we not accept this as a sort of psychological upgrade that we go through as we age, then this insecurity will be passed on to future generations. Will pass on to our daughters, to our granddaughters in the future too. So to start being aware of it and working yourself through it, and then to also understand that we all gonna have a bad mirror days once in a while, but ultimately still establishing really good mirror hygiene. So then you look at yourself in the mirror and you look at you as you would look at a younger sister. And you look at someone that you dearly love, not to criticize right away, because anybody at any moment can take a bad photo. Anybody, the most beautiful people on the planet, can take a terrible video. It doesn't make you deficient. It doesn't make you ugly. It's just the moment in your life. So just to take it and grow from it. Don't take it as a sentence.
And we need to learn to be kind to ourselves because women beat ourselves up. I heard something, I think it was maybe on Instagram, and someone was talking about how we talk the worst to ourselves. We would never talk to our friend or our family or kids like that, but we talk to ourselves so bad.
Yeah, we really do. That's inner critic. We all have it. And I know there are a lot of posts on the social media, and what I really don't like, and people post about things like eliminate your inner critic or destroy your inner critic. You'll never destroy it. Right. It's there for a really good reason. It's there to actually protect you. And it was born in those moments when someone, maybe in middle school, told you you got a big nose, or somebody in high school told you you have a big forehead. And that little poison dart got stuck someplace in subconscious. And as your brain becomes a little bit more sensitized as you go through perimenopause, as we just talked about, then all those toxic messages come to surface. And the scariest thing that you pick up those random poison darts that you absorbed long time in childhood and you believe it as truth. And then being able to identify it and to hear that internal voice and just to say, thank you for your opinion, but I'm okay right now. I'm okay with my nose and with my forehead and with my lips and everything that comes with it, because ultimately it's wonderful to be you. My job now as an aesthetic provider, I do sculpt faces. And I can really change the way women sees herself in the mirror. And one of the messages I try to deliver in the book that I'm currently writing, that our face is not just our face, it's where our identity lives. So when we are influencing this woman's face, either we're changing it, we can influence her identity either positively or negatively. That's why those conversations are so important. It's important for her to realize that there's so much beauty in her to begin with. And all we can do, we can support, we can enhance. It's just like trying on new mascara or new eyeshadow. It's fun to do it once in a while. But if you rely on those tools as an identity upgrade, that's when it becomes toxic. And that's why inner critic becomes very, very loud and you succumb to it.
And I don't think social media helps, because we go online and we see these influencers with flawless skin, and these women are in their 40s and 50s and their skin looks flawless. I mean, you look at movie stars, their skin looks flawless. That's not reality. We can't live up to those. So
no, it's not. And you know what's so interesting too, and it's silly how I realized it myself once. I was in some kind of conference and I just grabbed, when I was flying overseas, a couple samples from our drawer, and I didn't even look exactly what I got. So one of the cleansers that I grabbed, it was enzyme cleanser, and my skin overall is very, very dry and sensitive. So here I was washing my face every day for 3 nights in a row with this enzyme cleanser. My skin was extremely inflamed. But of course, by putting all the serums and moisturizers, it looked good. And the crazy thing, that the reason I bring this up now, because that inflamed skin looks really good on photos and videos. When I was taking photos and videos of myself throughout this conference, I was like, oh my God, here's that Korean glass skin that we are all in awe with when we look on Instagram. But as a physician, I knew my skin was not healthy. That was caused by accident. But so many patients chase that look without realizing they're actually stripping their skin. They're forcing their skin to age faster because they're doing all those exfoliated, very harsh treatments with the temporary gain of that glass fake skin.
Yeah. And I think that goes back to social media too. It's like all these influencers tell you exfoliate twice a day. I'm a conservative esthetician. I will tell clients once a week, and I like strip down their skincare. Very simple. I'll add in serums. You know, if somebody comes to me with a compromised skin barrier, I will literally send them home with the cleanser, moisturizer, and that's it for a month, and tell them, come back in 30 days, we will build on that from there. And it's amazing how stripping it down to like the bare basics makes such a huge impact on the skin.
You're absolutely right. And I think this whole wave of skincare experts on social media, it certainly backfired. There was a lot of criticism from aesthetic professionals a few years ago when we saw 9-year-olds going to Sephora, Ulta, and buying adult ingredients, buying retinol, alpha hydroxy acids. And we're talking about this premature skin that is not fully keratinized yet. So what that means, the skin barrier is not fully established. The skin is still very fragile. So it's almost like you have this budding flower and you already spraying pesticides on it. It's going to wilt so much faster. You can't use anti-aging ingredients at the age of 9. And recently I saw this post. It also blew my mind. It was one of the moms. She had her daughter in pageants, which I always hated, the beauty pageants. I don't even know why we have them. Why do we have to put our daughters through it? This is such a toxic environment for a young, premature brain to go through, that comparison environment. Beyond that, the mother was defending her decision of giving her daughter Botox at the age of, I think she was 6 or 7. Maybe. And the point is, she was not even 21 yet. Like in my practice, I would not inject anyone younger than 25 with Botox. And even at that, I will talk to them. What's the reason for it? There's no such a thing as a preventative Botox. The whole reason for Botox, we treat hyperactive, meaning over-functioning skeletal muscle. So that means you have some kind of facial expression that you're really, really good at expressing all the time. You know, like for example, the 11s, right? We get those angry expressions on our face, but ultimately most people have exactly the same expression when they're just in deep thought. And then some people have overactive muscles. They might want to start treating it in their mid-20s. But to give it to an 8-year-old. And the mother was defending her decision because she said everybody in her circle, all the mothers of the pageant girls, were doing it. Wow. That's just absolutely ridiculous. So yes, definitely social media made those tools accessible and made those tools mainstream, but at the same time propagate this very toxic dependence on things that people really should not be even introducing into their skincare. All those 10-step skincare routines is just ridiculous.
It is. And we don't know the long-term effects of these young kids doing skincare early or the early effects of doing Botox too young.
Yeah, well, essentially, we can assume what will
Right.
happen to their premature faces when the muscles haven't really fully functionally developed yet. And then you're starting to atrophy the muscle. And then with muscle atrophy, you have less blood flow. That skin will age faster if the girl will continue with the Botox. So as much as there was this whole talk about if the Botox will make your skin look worse, yes, if you start too early and you use it too often, and then you use it when you don't need it, yes, your skin will age early. And if you're starting it in your 40s, now you're slowing down aging. It's a different application there. So it all depends how we're prescribing it to patients. And I think that's really the most important thing out of this conversation, Samantha. If our listeners will get anything out of it, I just want to make sure they remember skin is a living organ. It's not a cosmetic surface. And anything we do, starting from retinol to Botox to fillers, they are prescription medications. There is actually a big shift in the cosmetic industry talking about taking all those active ingredients like a retinol, benzoyl peroxide, and put it back in the hands of dermatologists only and take it out of everyday regimen for most patients, because we giving those really powerful ingredients too early, and so many people abuse it and they are damaging the skin instead of getting some benefit from the ingredient.
I don't think there's enough education, not even for estheticians, about this.
Yeah, that's very unfortunate. I think you will agree with me too, especially being in the aesthetic industry for so long. You've seen aesthetic industry evolved, and you know there are new skincare products, new trends popping in every year. Like every time you go to aesthetic conference, it's such an overwhelming space. You have people bombarding you with, try this is the newest and greatest, this is that. So it's almost, for us as professionals, it's difficult to distinguish what's good, what's bad. So no wonder our patients are very confused. They don't even know who to trust anymore. So
Right.
I guess like my question back to you would be, how do you decide what skincare companies you trust?
And that's a hard one too, because I feel like there's so many of them now, and half of them, you can't even trust their ingredients.
I know there was this whole talk about clean beauty,
Yep.
and that's another big Pandora box. I am a big fan of clean beauty. Like, for example, I use botanical medicine often. I prescribe it to patients instead of prescribing drugs. Either if I'm treating hormonal imbalance or stress or acne, I will go to botanical medicine. But without prescription, it could be quite devastating. Like, I know supplements are wildly available everywhere and people can sell anything they want, and they don't really understand there are a lot of powerful ingredients. Like ashwagandha, for example, is very popular, but it can cause liver toxicity. Also, buying those ingredients from China and they're not tested, they can have heavy metals and other impurities there. And as for skincare ingredients, even with clean ingredients, clean beauty, you also have to be very mindful what's added there. Like, one of the biggest offenders, in my opinion, is essential oils. So many people will use natural skincare and then develop dermatitis. Why? Because it has a high dose of essential oil. And then so many of those essential oils are known irritants. So we can't just throw things like a tea tree oil or even chamomile on their face, because some people are allergic to Asteraceae family, that's where chamomile comes from. Without help of professional, just going trusting some random self-proclaimed Instagram gurus, that's when so many people run into problems. So even healthy, clean skincare could be very damaging to the skin.
Yeah. And what most people don't realize is that essential oils can be irritating when used by themselves or as raw formulations or not even formulated correctly.
Yeah, especially when they use without carrier oil, 100%.
Right.
Because so many of them are irritants. Like, we know they are irritants. Even fumes. A lot of people do this aromatizers at home, and children starts developing dermatitis because that fumes of that essential oils are in a house, and then child inhales it, and then they're like around the mouth and the nose, they all of a sudden get dermatitis. I have a lot of pediatric patients, and then we just identified they're overdoing essential oils in the house, and that's what's happening.
Natural doesn't always mean good.
Natural is definitely wonderful. It's better
Yes.
than the chemical, but we also have to understand those are powerful remedies. They need to be used cautiously, small doses, and preferably with advice and coaching from a professional who actually knows how those remedies can affect the skin.
I want to shift gears. I want to talk about stress, hormones, and the nervous system. So how does that change the way a woman sees her face? Not just how she feels about it, but how she perceives herself.
Before we talk about stress, one thing that I want to make very clear, most women in their 40s are extremely stressed and they have no idea that they are. I call this emotional labor. Common women in her 40s have million jobs. We have big executive positions. We either in management positions for our companies, or we are managing our own business, or we are head of big group or big responsible position at work. At the same time, we're typically mothers. We still have children that either in the middle school or high school. So there's a really big responsibility to make sure those little humans grow into normal, healthy humans. And then, of course, you have your spouse, and that's sort of a third child for many people. I have two children, but how many children you have, this is an additional child, and that's sort of another man and another person in your life you have to manage. And in addition to this, most of us will have elderly parents, and that's an additional responsibility that's all weighing on you. And with all this, most women in this country, I would say women who are aging, more of a modern women, they kind of like younger women, they learn how to prioritize their time and their responsibilities. But the way I was brought up, we always put ourselves as the last thing on the list. And when you constantly in that state of managing everybody else, your nervous system never turns off. So you don't even realize that high alertness, that high surveillance state is never turned off. So now going back with your reflection, how is that affecting you? When you watching for the reaction of everyone or of everyone else, their emotional health, their physical health, and then you look at yourself in the mirror, you start doing exactly the same thing to yourself. You're monitoring. Even when women go to relaxation places, I've seen it and I've been in many retreats. What I watch many women to do is to perform wellness. They're not fully relaxed yet. They're constantly asking themselves, am I doing this correctly? Am I breathing right? Am I stretching right? Am I applying this mask correctly? You're not fully turning off the surveillance. So when you analyzing your face, your brain under this chronic stress fragments. What that means, you're no longer seeing yourself or your face as an entire whole entity. So you're no longer seeing yourself how others seeing you. You start seeing imperfections. Oh my gosh, I have dark circles. Oh, look at those terrible wrinkles I have. All that sun damage, all whatever the imperfections are. And those women end up in my chair. And that's when I see them breaking themselves into pieces and pointing out all these imperfections, which even me as a professional, I can barely see it. But that's where it's really propagates. It starts off with how we condition of ignoring our own needs. We never learn to slow down. And even at time when we are supposed to be relaxing, we're still performing, we're still surveilling ourselves. So it's a skill. I challenge so many women. On your day off, I urge you, sit on the couch and do nothing. Grab a book, don't turn on the TV, don't touch your phone. I don't know, crochet, color, do anything. And then try to do it. You cannot do it for a whole day, great. Do it for a couple hours. And I know you're shaking your head because you can't do this
Like,
either.
there's no way.
But it's a skill and we do need to practice this. Because when you practice the stillness, that moment of going back within yourself, that's when you cultivate your own intuition. That's when you're able to step back and to actually look at your own reflection in the mirror and to see, oh, my skin is so radiant. Oh, the skincare is definitely working. My hair is healthy. Whatever other adjectives you want to add to this, but then you start talking yourself with compassion, with support, less criticism.
I also feel like the nervous system and cortisol, it becomes so dysregulated at this age. And you and I both know that the body can't heal if the nervous system is dysregulated.
Oh, absolutely. I did this post on social media and I just bluntly said, cortisol destroys your collagen, because it really does.
So
just
true.
think about even medication injects like a hydrocortisol that doctors will inject for inflammation. it can create hypertrophic scar, which meaning indent into the skin. Chronically elevated cortisol is directly destroying your collagen. So yes, ladies, protect your sleep, because that's when the cortisol become chronically elevated. It's when you're struggling with insomnia. So if you have any problems with sleeping, you wake up unrested, even if you've been in bed for 10 hours, but you had a fragmented sleep, you haven't really fully relaxed, you should take care of this. You need to talk to a specialist, because guess what? No facials, no magic serums will actually compensate that.
It is so true, yeah. And even with cortisol, when our hormones start to shift, it causes our cortisol to naturally increase. Something that we were able to hide in our 20s and early 30s, it comes to the surface, and it's like we just can't handle the stress response like we did in our younger years.
Yeah, that's very true. I would not necessarily say that the cortisol will increase by default. Essentially what happens is our ovaries go on a permanent vacation or, retirement. Then your thyroid and your adrenal glands become your main sources for your hormones, because our endocrine system, our hormone system, it's like a three-legged stool. So of course, if one leg is broken, then obviously more weight is on two other legs. So the thyroid health is very important, but the cortisol lives in the adrenal glands, and the adrenals become responsible for production of all hormones at that point, because women do have a small amount of progesterone and estrogen produced even post-menopause, and it comes from adrenal glands. So of course, when you are stressed out, and again, we just established how many women are chronically stressed out and they completely unaware that they are stressed out because of that chronic vigilance. Their cortisol becomes elevated by default, and then cortisol is really stealing all the building blocks from other hormones, because your building block, mainly it's a hormone called pregnenolone, we call it the mother hormone, it all goes into cortisol. So then of course the other hormones will start to suffer. Without adequate testosterone, DHEA, you're going to feel chronic fatigue, your muscle starts to wilt down, your collagen is not as beautiful. Even of course with the cortisol, we already established it destroys the collagen, but without help of other hormones, you're not making new. And then with that, there's also risk for other things like osteopenia and then loss of muscle mass. So all that is very tightly connected. Protecting your adrenals, giving your body rest, make sure you have at least few minutes a day of quiet alone time when you recharge your nervous system. It's even more important during menopause. And that's why we cannot really handle stress as well as we did in our 20s and 30s, because the adrenals become overwhelmed by just having so many jobs now.
So true. Before we close, is there something you'd like to leave our listeners with that they can start implementing today?
The main things I always remind to every woman that the best anti-aging tools are actually very inexpensive. It's not free. And one of the most important ones are completely free, called water, sleep, and movement. And I specifically say movement, not exercise, because I find many women in their 40s allergic to the word exercise. So when you're telling them they need to exercise, it's fall on deaf ears, and they say, oh, I'm busy, I have so many things, I don't want to go to the gym, it's too far from my house, it's expensive, blah, blah. But I always say your body needs to move. I saw this quote on social media and I actually absolutely loved it. It says, with lack of movement, our body, fluid and flexible, turns into a rusty swing. So if you really want your body to be youthful and flexible, and then besides of getting aches and pains of old age, start really nurturing it with movement daily. And that movement could be anything you love. It doesn't have to be that trip to the gym. You hate lifting heavy weights, don't do that. You hate yoga, don't do this. You hate Pilates, don't do that. But try different exercise. Even if you just dance in the kitchen while you make your coffee, that's already movement. I mean, at least get a dog, go for a walk every day. Like, just make your body move, because that movement of lymph and blood, that's where the longevity lives. That's where the glow, the anti-aging really lives. And without it, there's no magic pill, there's no peptides, because a lot of people asking me, what peptides should I inject? And I always say, are you moving? Are you drinking enough water? You should be drinking. Well, I live in Arizona, so I always say 2 liters, but anywhere else, at least 1.5 liters every day. And most women don't. And it's so simple and it's free. And then protect your sleep, ladies. The sleep is the most important thing. That's why they call it a beauty sleep, for a reason. So if you don't sleep enough, you're just not going to look good.
We need to establish better sleep habits too.
Yes, less blue screens before bed. That's where insomnia lives, yes.
How can everybody connect with you? Where can they find you?
So I do have a platform where we have our educational courses, and there's also early pre-sale list for my upcoming book, When Beauty is Currency. The platform is unveilyou.life. And I am on social media, so we do have unveilyou.life Instagram channel and my personal channel, Natalya Borakowski. So you can always follow me there. I'm trying to give some really helpful tips for every woman. And again, the skincare and the healthy, ageless skin does not have to be expensive. It really comes from daily choices that we do every day. And when we treat our body with love and support, it pays back.
When is your book coming out?
It's my first book, which is, it's like birthing your first child. You know, The labor goes longer. The manuscript is ready, and I'm working with a developmental editor. So we are on editing stages, and I never knew it's so hard to edit your own book. And I'm doing my best to get on that manuscript every day. Yesterday, I worked at it for an hour and I closed it, and I told my husband I need a break because at the moment I hate my book. It's an emotional roller coaster because I am a woman in perimenopause. I have bad days, I have good days. And I am trying my best to have it launched hopefully midsummer, but it's all just, depends. How quickly can I put this manuscript back together?
Yeah, I get it. I published mine in 2017, so I feel like the editing process is the longest part.
Yes, I know. And then because it's your first book, you start to really question everything.
Right.
And then you have moments when you reading your own writing and thinking, who would ever even read this? This is so stupid. Nobody cares. Yeah. Just keep swimming.
There's our inner critic again.
Exactly. Powerful thing that is.
Natalya, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Samantha. It was a wonderful conversation.
Thank you for listening. Today we had on our special guest, Dr. Natalya Borakowski. We talked about how our brain changes during perimenopause, affecting how we see ourselves when we look in the mirror. We also talked about cortisol and the nervous system, how this affects us during perimenopause, and how our skin changes during this time. Please check the show notes to connect with Dr. Natalya. Be sure to tune in next Tuesday to episode 34. We are going to be talking about fitness in your 40s. You don't want to miss this one. And always remember, you deserve to love the skin you're in. As estheticians, we have such a unique opportunity to not only care for the skin on the surface, but to guide our clients towards deeper wellness. If this episode gave you something to think about, share it with me on Instagram @SkinDeepIL. I look forward to connecting with you there. And if you enjoyed this conversation, subscribing and reviewing the podcast helps others find these conversations too. And always remember, you deserve to love the skin you're in.